The mid-90s, my family had the vineyard up in the foothills, and at that point we had the vineyard there. We had a winery just south of here that we were renting space from, and our vineyard got phylloxera, and so our vineyard is dying of phylloxera, and we ended up in a lawsuit with our landlord at our old place. And so when you're a winery, a vertically integrated winery, and your vineyard's dying, you're kind of in a bit of a pickle. And so at the same time, we were moving the winery to Lodi, and so we had no grapes because our vineyard was dead. And so my dad came up with this concept that he worked with the Wine Grape Commission and Mark Chandler at the time, that if a grower brought us 2 tons of grapes, we would make the wine, give them 25 cases, and then we would keep the balance for ourselves. At that point in time, there were hardly any boutique wineries in Lodi, and there were virtually no Lodi Appellate wines, so growers never had the opportunity to taste a wine from their vineyard. It was always being sold to the big guys and disappearing. And so that feedback loop between, growing the grapes, making the wine, tasting the wine from that vineyard, and then going out and selling it in the marketplace wasn't there. And so they came up with that concept, and that first year in 1996 we were here, and Jerry at the time showed up with not 2 tons but 7 tons of grapes from a vineyard right over here, one planted in 1944. And my dad was all freaked out because he didn't have the money to pay for the grapes, and Jerry's like, don't worry about it, we'll work that out later. And he was stressed out about it, and so we made the wine, and it turned out beautifully. And we ended up bottling it as a vineyard designated Mohr-Fry Ranch Old Vines Inn in 1996, did about 300 plus cases. It sold out in 3 months, won a bunch of awards, and has since grown to be our largest production wine we do. We now make about 3,500 cases of that wine. And but to this day, we still have this very much kind of that type of relationship. It's a handshake deal, so that even in the really light yield years, we still get the grapes I need for our brands, and the other wineries get cut back, and we pay them as we get the money. In fact, I think we just sent you the last check the other day. Just in time for the next harvest. I asked my mom that. But the other aspect of it is they can come and trade wine or they get wine and we deduct it from what we owe them. And sometimes we get to this point in the year and they owe us a bunch of money, which it's always nice to go into harvest with a deficit. So, and then in 1999, my dad came to Jerry and just said, I want to make the best Lodi Zinfandel we can from Lodi to help put Lodi on the stage. And he said, I want, think about what is your best block you can work with, and we'll do everything we can in the winery, you do everything we can in the vineyard. And Jerry said, well, we got this 8 acres planted in 1901 that I think would be a good fit. And so we started making a Marion's Vineyard Zinfandel in 1999. A couple of years later, it won the best Zinfandel at the California State Fair, and since then it's always been a big hit of ours and sold out every year. It's now, parts of it ends up in our larger Mohr-Fry blend, but it's always been a particularly distinct wine. And it's interesting, that particular block is somewhat clonally different from the other 8 blocks or 7 blocks that are on this ranch. So we started this Lodi Native project in 2012, and I brought the 2012 to pour with you here today. It's been long gone, but we still have a little bit left at the winery just to see how it was aging. It's been a while since I've tasted it, and I think it's holding up well. And it seemed like a natural fit to work with on this project, and it's turned out really nice. And, it's been an interesting project for us as vintners. But we'll get more into that when we taste. We're going to taste the 13 as a set this evening over at Makia when we're done. So we'll go through all 6 of the 2013 wines together. And but this is the first vintage I did of it. And we'll share some of the headaches of going native, so to speak.